Awesome. That was an amazing song from Angie Rose. Angie Rose is a Christian artist. She has music that is coming out, so I'm very excited about her. You can go on Instagram. Instagram, you can look up Angie Rose. You can go on all streaming platforms and download her music. Because this is all about femininity and we're excited about today, I wanted to make sure that I blessed her with the opening song. All right, so welcome to Conversations with Kings, but we're doing this a little bit different. We have conversations with queens today, but I hope that kings are listening in. We're going to be talking about what we are doing wrong as women, basically, which is a very important topic. So many times we look past the fact that we tend to do things wrong. I mean, everybody does, but are we as women really paying attention to our men? Are we paying attention to the lack of, basically what it is that they need? Let's find out. So everybody, I would like you to introduce yourself, starting with Paige and then going to Paris. Melissa, you just need to put your name on the screen, and then Ella. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Paige.
My name is Paige Nicole. I am an emotion code practitioner as well as an abundant life coach.
Awesome.
My name is Paris Lauren. I am a relationship and dating expert. I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's me.
Hi, Melissa.
I'm Melissa Vitale. I'm a personal trainer and a career coach, and I'm out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hi, I'm Ella Alexandria Love. I'm a Ascension facilitator, and I work predominantly with women to help them match their beliefs with their actions and their thoughts to create their dream lives.
Awesome. So we have a panel of amazing women, which I'm very excited about. So how do you ladies feel when it comes to, do you feel there is a lack when it comes to women, even with the way we handle our men, basically? Like, how do you feel about that?
Great question, Miana. I really feel strongly about this subject. And the reason being is because I just feel as women, sometimes we can do better when it comes to how we treat men in general. And most importantly, how we treat the man that we're in a relationship with. For example, if you're in a relationship with a man and you've been in a relationship for an extended period of time, sometimes you start lacking in things or start getting comfortable where we don't keep ourselves up, or we may not keep the spark like we used to. So things change as we grow in our relationships and start having longevity. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I feel we could do better as women with keeping it consistent, just like we ask men to.
Definitely. I definitely do agree with that. And does any other ladies have anything to comment when it comes to us keeping ourselves together and like being consistent in our actions or even in how we take care of ourselves?
I would say that I definitely agree with Paris in that area. And I think especially when we have children and we kind of get lost in being everything to everybody else and we kind of forget about ourselves.
Yes.
And I've been there too.
Yes.
Been there, done that. But
yes, I was recently speaking on the phone about that because I was like, I remember at a time in my life when I was married, I literally was sitting in a fitting room and like, asking my ex-husband like how I looked and stuff like that. And I realized that I've put myself last for years to the point where I lost who I was. So I actually forgot because I put everybody ahead of myself. And as women, we tend to do that in our marriages, in our relationships. We put everybody before us. It's like the nurturing component of us.
And I think we're taught that, especially as Black women, to do that. And as if it makes us a better parent or a better person when we put ourselves last. And it doesn't, because if we're not our best selves, we can't be good for anybody else.
Right.
That's very powerful. That's really powerful.
Especially when it comes to relationships and also keeping a man's attention. For example, men to me are visual creatures. So naturally, they're going to look with their eyes and then their eyes are going to tell a story, right? So if we are in these spaces where we're not keeping ourselves up, just physically, mentally as well, because sometimes mentally we may be unavailable as well due to certain circumstances in our lives. So I think when it comes to that, men kind of is a turn on. So when I say mentally, it could be a confidence thing. It could be, you know what I mean? It's different things. And I think men are attracted to us being confident and how we appear, how we speak, how we interact with other people. So it's important for us to make sure that we keep it together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And in a generation, if you want to say, or a society today of booty shaking, twerking, and everything else, like, how do you feel that plays into, how we are with our men? Like, I guess, is it more that we're getting too much more sexual attention, that it's kind of like taken away from the need of a man in certain ways? How do you feel about like that aspect? Does anybody?
Yeah, so I feel like when it comes to like men going to strip clubs or looking at other women on television and things like this, that's not reality. Reality is you're going to have a woman that's going to have downtime. You're going to have your headscarf on. You're going to be comfortable with your PJs on. That's not reality. That's just something that is a temporary thing. But I think that it's important for us to know that this is something that we have to compete with in a sense, because yes, sometimes you're married to your man, but you have all of these other women that are doing certain things. So what are you going to do to kind of like compete, if you will? It's kind of a natural thing, because for me, I feel like it's safe to say my man could look at somebody else, but I want him to know other people are going to look at me too, right? I want him to know I'm the prize. So when it comes to, someone in a strip club shaking, okay, they're the prize at that moment, but I'm always the prize. So I'm going to make sure that I keep myself and hold myself to that standard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think there's layers to it, right? Because there's the external layer, which is what we've been talking about, which I completely agree. Men are visual creatures. Not only that, they have short attention spans. So yeah, when you're walking down the street, they're like, oh, pretty, oh, pretty, oh, pretty. But like flowers, right? They're not going to go pluck that flower and like marry that flower and have kids with that flower, or like, buy that flower a house. So, that's important to remember. Which kind of brings me to like insecurity and jealousy. I work a lot on like the energetics of things. So like when she was speaking, it was reminding me that like the physical layer is important, not just because men are visual, but because we as women, our natural feminine energy is like here to be beautiful, here to be sensual, to be sexual. Like this is our energy on the earth. No one's looking at, no offense to men, men are beautiful, but it's not the same feminine energy, right? So it's not just for them, it's for us too. Like I noticed a complete difference from, if I go a few days without, like, for me, makeup, it's not something that I feel like I need, but it is something that feels good for me. So I think it's important that women are doing what feels good for them, whether that be just like, mascara and lipstick, or, full on lashes, and, but whatever feels good for them. And that takes a lot of self-awareness these days, because we are being pushed a lot of like beauty standards. But one thing that I'm realizing is that if one woman feels good with like really light makeup, and natural hair, she's gonna shine. Like her radiance, her natural radiance is gonna be like, on fleek, even with that little, compared to if she was like wearing a face full of makeup, but it wasn't really her essence, and that's what's important, that we're in our lane, so to speak.
I definitely do agree. But
right.
I'm sorry?
Oh,
yes.
I was going to say, let's not forget that beauty fades. Let's not forget that beauty is going to one day fade. I've been married now and been with my husband for 21 years. And we've had 5 children. And the one thing that he said to me is that when I met you, he said, it wasn't because I didn't choose you as my wife because you were the most beautiful girl of the batch. I didn't choose you as my wife because you were just so pretty and so irresistible and so sexy. Although those things have come true to me when I met you and I got to know you. See, we were friends for 3 years first before we actually began dating. So we dated and, then we were married after having our second child. But however, he said, I chose you because of your character. So I think that's something else that we have to pay attention to as well, is the character of a woman, because beauty does fade. What is your character like? How are you speaking to your man? How are you treating them? So it's more than just the beauty, although I totally agree with you, ladies. We have to remain saying the same way they caught us is the same way we need to remain looking and behaving. But I do think that there's a huge character flaw that can happen with women, even having been in a relationship for a long time, or even trying to obtain a relationship. There's a character flaw sometimes where men say, oh, she's loudmouth, or she's disrespectful, or the way that she speaks is, what have you, or, however it is. But I do think that we need to definitely focus on the character of a woman, because as I teach my 2 older daughters, I say, your beauty is gorgeous, but your character lasts forever.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Cynthia, because that's one of the reasons why I was talking about like the twerk generation, because is behavior like that, and I'm not saying that twerking all the time is bad or anything like that, or do you ladies feel like behavior like that is something that because it's gotten so broad and everybody like it's okay, that's something that used to not be okay in a sense, so now that we're like general.
I think that what happened is the media today, especially now more than ever, I believe that people are home. We're all watching the television, and these kids have nothing else to do. I can tell you right now, call me a bad parent if you want to. I try to limit my children as best as possible, but they're on their phones, 70% of the day. And there is TikTok, and there is all of this, there are other, even our music industry. You look at Lizzo. She's a big girl, and she's promoting, that bigness and that sexiness, and it's okay to be sexy and it's okay to be big. Listen, I'm with it, but it's also okay to be healthy. So I do, I like that Lizzo has now come into that healthy category. But I think that, that twerking, for me to sit here and say I didn't do it in a different way, I've been on it. I ain't make 5 babies for no reason, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there's more to it than just that twerking, and that's what we need to teach our young women. And it starts with the mother. It starts with us as mothers. How are we behaving before our children? Have you guys seen these pictures of women taking pictures half naked, and then they they'll circle that corner of the picture, and the baby's in the corner like this?
Yeah.
Exactly. How are we behaving in front of our children that is going to bring on that next generation and that next generation to come?
Definitely, I agree with you. So let's get into some polls that I did on Facebook that men answered. There were some women that answered too, so it was like a very little bit of women that answered. But let's start with this. Every now and then I'm going to break it into this. So. All right, so this is one of the polls that it says, do you feel women always have to be right, and when wrong, have a hard time admitting it? 70% of men said that yes, women have a hard time admitting that they are wrong. So how do you feel about that?
Well, women are never wrong. No, I'm just playing. No, I think a lot of women do have a problem admitting when they're wrong. I don't, but
yeah.
I'll say my husband just the other day, he said, if you would stop spending so much time deflecting and spend more time reflecting, he said, I really appreciate it. And it was over some silly conversation that we had, but the truth of the matter is he's 100% right. Sometimes, as women, and a lot of us women are raised to have been so, greatly independent, and our daddies, especially if we've had fathers, so I had a strong father personally, and my mother wasn't in the picture. So my father raised me to be this masculine woman. This independent woman. And he said, you were independent from the day I met you, and that's what makes you so difficult to talk to. So sometimes we do have a hard time admitting, okay, maybe I need to fix that in this area. But, the quicker we do it, the better we're off, honestly.
Yeah. I think that we have a hard time apologizing, but we also have a hard time accepting accountability for where we went wrong as women, because we're so used to being the nurturer, being everything it is to a person, let alone a man. So I think when we're wrong, we need to at least accept we are wrong, see what part we played, but also accept accountability. And when we accept accountability, we need to make sure that we apologize in ways that we correct our behavior. And I think when it comes to being wrong, I think that we'll apologize, but we'll send mixed signals to men. As women, we'll apologize, say, yeah, I was wrong, I take accountability, but then the following week, we may fall into the same habit. So correcting our behavior when we are wrong. And if we apologize, say we apologize. For example, if a man goes out and he steps out and you say to that man, I forgive you, forgive that man. Don't keep bringing it up,
Yeah.
because it's something that's not going to weigh lightly on that man. So when we're wrong or someone else is wrong, just stand to what we say. So say what we mean and mean what we say, whatever that means. So I think we have to do a better job as women of that.
I think that's perfectly said. Well said.
Exactly. And one of the guys says, and say sorry, don't say my bad.
I don't know what type of women he's dealing with.
You know what? And can I say that we also need to apologize to our children when we're wrong, because we don't apologize to them. At least I do. I apologize to mine if I know I'm wrong, but a lot of women don't do it, and our children grow up with the same mentality. You got, if you don't apologize to your sons, they're not used to women apologizing, and you don't apologize to your daughter, she ain't apologizing.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the whole truth, because it does stem back from when you're younger. That's the whole entire truth. I do agree with that. If a man's coming from a situation, I can say for myself, I've witnessed it many times where a mother will speak to their son so backwards, so side-handed, so like, boy, you better go get your, the way, whatever, just screaming at their sons. And if you think about a boy, even as mothers, we'll be like, boy, man up, or son, man up. You a boy, you need to get through this life, but if we change that tune a little bit and we show a little bit of that emotion and we show a little bit of that love, they're going to be expecting that in which their parents gave them, in which their parents nurtured them. And that's a lot of the stuff too today with these men. I believe, we don't necessarily understand them sometimes because, how were they planted? How were they watered? How were we planted? How were we watered?
Wow.
right.
And Ellie, you wanted to speak on that, didn't?
Yeah, that's something that's like really just really big in my heart. Like I had my son at 17, and I did not have like parental figures, we'll say that. Like when I was 3 months old, my father went to prison for murder, and I never saw him again until I was 10. And I say this because I felt like she was touching on it a little bit, but like I coach women in the mother wound. So like I've devoted most of my life, what is this wound between the mother and the daughter? Because it's very prevalent, especially in the Black community. But it stems out to all of this. It stems out to then the mother who treats her son the way that she was mentioning, the mother who hates her daughter, says I love you, but hates her like she hates her, is jealous of her, sabotages her. But what made me think of this actually was one of the key wounds or symptoms from the mother wound is perfectionism. And I think that's why a lot of women struggle to apologize, because we want to be perfect, like, and that comes from this deficit of like wanting this love that we never got from our mothers that unfortunately most of us won't ever get. And our mission here is now to figure out how to give that love to ourselves.
That's powerful.
So powerful.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Let's get into another poll question. Ooh, they're spicy. Are women becoming more masculine and less attractive today? So that was a 50-50 deal. There were women, there was 3 women that ended up putting no. So I'm sure that would have been a little bit over when it came to yes. So I'm sure yes would have won. What was it? But how do you feel about that? I mean, with women paving the way, especially Black women paving the way when it comes to being entrepreneurs. The leading entrepreneurs in 2019, I'm not sure of the statistics on 2020, but we have held the world on our back in a lot of ways. So how do you feel about women becoming more masculine today?
I would say I don't think they're becoming more masculine. I think they've been masculine. I think more women are becoming more feminine now. There's a big push for women to become more feminine. Of course, you're going to have those women that are going to push back on it because they may see it as a weakness. But I think, there are definitely a lot of masculine women, but I think femininity is coming back.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Paige. I think that masculinity and independence is something that that these few generations that are grown women at this point, I think that they've been taught that because their mothers poured into them. You don't need nobody, you go out and do your thing, don't worry about no man. Where the generations before that, you need a man. You have to rely on not just yourself as other people. So I think we're being pushed now to be more feminine because it's not fun, and it's fun in games when I got it to take care of myself, I'm independent. But when you want to be with somebody and that's pushing them away from being with you fully because you're so headstrong. So I think femininity is being pushed nowadays. I think it's something that we need to make the new norm.
And I wouldn't even say it's all on the mother that pushed it in the daughters either, because a lot of the fathers do it too. They teach their daughters not to depend on people.
Agreed.
And they tell them, hey, if a guy wants you, or if a guy wants something or wants to give you something, then all of a sudden he wants something in return.
Agreed.
And they teach them, to be independent, not to need anybody. So it's the mothers and the fathers pushing it on the girls, not just one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what I was saying before about masculinity and being, and a woman, having to feel that masculine role. When you did the relationship and finance panel, there was a man that had said he communicated the whole consumer, theory that men are very big time consumers, and sometimes the wife will end up, or the woman will be making more money, or what have you, and then the man gets used to it because of it, and then he ends up consuming his wife, and it gives her masculine. Now he wants to be feminine, then he can't seem to receive that femininity from her. It really hit home for me because there was a time that was the case at my home. There was a time that it felt that way. There was a time that I felt like, oh my gosh, I opened a business, salon, and I had all of, these people underneath me. I had all these employees, all this, the taxes to be paid and all of the things to do, and an extensive, ridiculous clientele, praise God. And, it was like I was serving in the business and serving when I got home. But I also had to bring home the money. Not that I made more money than him. Don't get me, don't make me, I don't like to be confusing, but just that was a huge factor in the addition to those finances. But what ended up happening is that masculinity, now I had to turn the table, right? So now I had to figure out, okay, now I got to come home with these feet hurting, the feet burning, my legs hurting, my hips hurting because I've been standing behind a chair all day long and serving people. Now I got to serve my husband because I can't forget, because if I don't serve him, he's going to get served somewhere else. So it's that part too, is that sometimes we get, so caught up, but that masculinity factor that you were talking about, being more masculine versus more feminine, you guys all hit it on the head. It starts when we were children. It's not just the father, it's not just the mother. But one thing I did notice is that there's a newfound single black and proud movement going. And I've seen that all over my Facebook. And not that I'm downplaying it, not that I find it disrespectful anyway, but what are we teaching our daughters? Are we teaching our daughters that being single, black, and proud is the way to go, and forgetting the family unit? Because let me tell you something. I don't know what I would do without my husband. I don't know what I would do without my cute little family, okay? So at the end of the day, I do need him. I need him emotionally. I need him physically. I need him financially. I need him there. He's a father, and he's a caretaker. He's a lover. He's a provider, right? So if we continue to create this whole, stigma of single black and proud, single Puerto Rican and proud, single and proud, right? What are we teaching our children? So that's where that masculinity comes in too, because now you've been scorned, and there's nothing like a woman being scorned, and now we're reflecting that onto or deflecting it onto our children. And then our children are saying, oh, well, I'm going to be like mommy because mommy works so hard and she gives the man. And there's even Father's Day cards. Happy Father's Day, Mom.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because I get men that'll tell me Happy Father's Day. I'm like, I'm not a daddy.
right.
No, don't
Yeah.
tell me that.
Yes, in order to be a daddy, you got to have the sperm to plant the seed. Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And you know, this has been on my heart a lot too, because about just a week ago, like I'm on vacation right now, and I was spending a few days with my grandmother, and we were doing a lot of Black history research, and she was like, have you listened to, we were watching Harriet. I was like, Grandma, you got to see Harriet. It's so good. And she was like, have you read the Willie Lynch letter? And I said, no, I haven't. You know, I always hear about it because I'm in a lot of, you know, conscious Black communities, but I had never read it personally. And she found a clip of it, and she put it on YouTube for me. And I was listening to it. And for those of you who haven't read it, it's basically a manual that a white slave owner, he was like an expert at psychologically breaking slaves to have good slaves. In this letter, he was basically teaching slave owners so many things, but the thing that stood out to me the most was he said, do these specific things to your male slaves so that their women never depend on them, and do these certain things to your female slaves
Really?
so that they only depend on you and that they don't trust the male slaves. He said you have to put the female against the male, and you have to put the light against the dark. You have to put the young against the old. But the part about the female against the male, man, that broke my heart, because I see it play out. I see it play out today when you see these Black women, like Black men switching teams, and then you see these Black men like against Black women. And this letter really showed me that it's psychological, and this is part of the generational healing that we're doing. Like, it's literally systematically and psychologically ingrained in us.
Exactly. Those are truth. Everything from the government on, like, you can see in history from the welfare system, basically, and strategically how made to separate Black families.
Yeah.
Which is that's a whole podcast in itself. Because that's a conversation.
When babies were ripped from their parents' arms, you know, and made to, you know, raise themselves. It's horrible.
Yeah, it definitely is. Let's get to the next poll question. Let me see. Okay, so is it easier to talk to a woman outside of your relationships about emotional issues? So 64% of men said yes. So, and that's something that, like, you know, and that's something I focus on, the emotional aspects of a man when it comes to my encouragement. So I've had a lot of men basically come to me that are in relationships, that are, you know, married, and basically love watching my lives when I'm encouraging them and different things like that. And that I've seen proof basically that it's been easier for them to talk to me about situations, basically, as opposed to talking to their significant other. How do you ladies feel about that? Like, how, like, we were definitely lacking in that area.
I think there's truth to that. I get men that talk to me about their relationships too. So it's like, you know, and I think a lot of it is a lot of the women don't understand, or they don't want to understand, or they just really don't understand men altogether.
Wow. I
And
agree.
You can't give what you don't
I
have
definitely
yourself.
agree.
Yeah, you can't give emotional support to a man if you don't know how to emotionally support yourself. And a lot of it, I think, is triggers. So, like, as the man is speaking about his emotions, you know, when it comes to trauma, if you haven't healed something, you're gonna project it. So while he's speaking about his emotions, you can't even see it, because, like, there's a veil in front of your face because you're thinking about your stuff now. Or you're triggered, or something's coming up, an abandonment wound. Oh no, he feels like this, he's gonna leave me. And then suddenly it's about you again. So I think a lot of it is that too. I think a lot of it is trauma.
Agreed. I think that women are we're emotional beings by nature. So I think when it comes to our significant others having conversations, especially touchy conversations that kind of strike a trauma nerve or a nerve, we become in this combative space, or we become in this protective womb where, you know, it's a defense mechanism, and sometimes we tear our men down. But I think that if we as people get older, they mature, but I think that that emotional side is always going to be in us as women, but we need to learn how to control that emotional side and become more strategic and more loving and more understanding when it comes to loving our partner. And if our partner feels like they need to speak with someone else, I think we need to reflect and see what it is about us that's causing them to shut down and not have these conversations, and not blame them for having conversations. And again, there's that accountability thing. Take accountability. Or where did I go wrong in this? Why is it that my spouse doesn't want to speak to me? And when you do figure out the problem, have a normal conversation, because at times we do things and we don't even know that we're doing them. You could have a conversation with your spouse where you're raising your voice and it could feel like you're becoming argumentative, but you're numb to it because you don't even know you're raising your voice. So just be cognizant of what your spouse tells you, what other people tell you, and just pretty much work on it and take accountability.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of times women will, women will tell a man, like, tell me the truth. Basically, I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to be able to handle it. They tell you the truth and you're like, no. Like, how dare you?
Don't tell the truth. Don't tell the truth.
And that makes them close up so much, basically.
Right. When we say tell the truth, that means don't tell the truth. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's so important to be balanced to where you can hear the truth and respect the fact that he told you the truth, to be able to, and to respect him and not get mad at him. Like, that's so important. It's like, if you don't want to hear the truth, don't ask for it. Like, a lot of us are unprepared.
And I'm a coach, so I'm like a huge advocate for coaches, for mentors. Like, in my coaching group, I tell the women, I'm not a therapist, so you need a therapist. You need to have a couple mentors. Right.
You need a team.
You need a team. And I think for relationships, it's the same thing. Like, one of the most successful relationships that I know of, a friend of mine, they started relationship counseling when they got together, not because they had any issues, but because they wanted to maintain it and they wanted sustainability. When I saw that, I took that. Like, me, I'm single, but I take things from other people's relationships and I'm like putting it in my bag for what I'm going to do. And that was one thing I was like, even though they only go once a month for preventative, I feel like in a society like we live in today, like, we have to be honest about the society we live in. It's counter, self-care and unconditional love is counterculture. We're getting bombarded with things that encourage the opposite of that all day long. So I'm all for like relationships having a therapist, a counselor, and I would be open, to my partner having even a female, some sort of female coach that they can go to talk about, that's trusted, of course, and that's like someone we both agree on. I would be fine with that, because I know I'm not always in the space to hear it and receive it. I know I'm not always neutral, and we have to be honest about that.
But how many women are comfortable with their man, with a female counselor, with female friends? Like, a lot of women are not.
They're not, because they lack self-confidence, they lack self-worth, they're insecure. So a lot of women are insecure because just like men, society strips down men, society also strips down women, where we feel we have to have a certain look for people to talk to us. We feel like we have to come to the table with certain things. So I think that it just depends on the woman. And once that woman is of a certain standard where she's secure, she feels like she's not lacking in certain areas, she's dealt with her childhood trauma, I think a lot of women will be more open to it, because what is it that you have to lose? If anything, you have something to gain. So if you take out the insecurities and thinking that someone's against you, you take all that out, I think a lot of women will be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you think of, like, I like to think of, like, back in the days, like even African tribes. I'm always thinking about African tribes when it comes to, like, our community. And it's like, when you think about it, like, the women were cooking for everybody, the men were going out hunting together, like, the people were going to, like, spiritual counsel and just different things like that. And it's like, today we're so, oh my God, that's a female, don't talk, oh my goodness, and that's crazy to me. And it's like, I think that women have to start becoming more balanced when it comes to, is this going to help? If it's going to help, why not? Just because it's a woman helping, like, that speaks a lot about the woman who is even helping. There's things that you ladies do on the panel that I cannot do, basically. So it's like, why not be okay with, basically somebody, coaching or mentoring or listening?
Yeah, I think it's good as long as there are no ulterior motives. If they're like truly friends or truly, whoever, because I know I have guy friends that I'll bounce stuff off, and I'm like, let me know if I'm tripping, before I bring it to somebody else, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes because we don't think like men, we may take something completely different than what it was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, let me know if I was tripping, before I even say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's important. But that's important too, is to because we're emotional creatures, is not just to react. Like
Right.
so many women just react, and it's like, slow down, pause, like, take don't be crazy, because they say every woman is crazy. I'd be like a calculated crazy. Don't be crazy, calculated.
Right.
Basically. Let me and did anybody have anything to say about that before I go to the next poll question about what we just spoke about?
I just have something to say about your crazy. the crazy comment. I think that everybody has a certain trigger in them that will cause them to step out of their comfort zone and be in someone else. But like you said, women, we have to take the emotion out of it, because when that trigger is pressed with us, it's like, and we just like everything in our past will destroy and then regret it later. So once we have that calculated thought, like, listen, I got to calm down, I think we'll execute better.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, you think about it, like how many times, like either you yourself, you don't have to tell anybody, or one of your friends, like, oh, I don't like him, and he did this and he did that, and I'm moving out. And then the next day they're like, and you're like, what are you doing? And they're like moving back in, and you're like, but wait a second, you just said you hated him and you were moving on. Like, what's going on?
Mean what you say what you mean, right?
Exactly. And think about it first. Like, always, like, that's one thing that I like to practice. I love to step back and actually think things over before I make any major decisions.
Yeah.
But you never know. It could backfire. All right. So the next poll question, this is a long one. All right. So do you feel the world is moving in the direction that men will eventually be no more than sperm banks because women are finding less of a need for a man in all areas?
Wow.
Will we be heading to the sperm bank in 2035?
It's a loaded
question. I think that's a little bit dramatic. I mean, I think women have always utilized sperm banks when they want to have kids. There's no male. Or I have a lot of friends who are lesbians, and they'll utilize things like that. But I think that's more of like a fear-based thinking, because for me, in my reality, I see more than ever, I see sacred unions coming together. But that's in my reality currently. So I hope not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, and 53% of men on that poll said yes. They feel like, they said yes, that they feel like they will eventually be like sperm banks, as in women will only be coming to them for sex because their finances are good. Basically, they don't need a man for finance. They don't need a man for emotional needs. They just need a man to have duties, basically. So it's like 53% of men actually felt that was a statement that was correct.
I feel like a sperm bank can't protect you. A sperm bank can't make you feel comfort. You can't cuddle with a sperm bank. So I think that we're not getting away from that. I think that
I can see you, but I can't hear any of you.
I think that we're actually so when it comes to different situations in a relationship, like if you're in a female relationship, then yes, rely on sperm banks. But I think as women, we love that security. We love that comfort that a man brings. We love that connection that a man brings. Just that masculinity, that testosterone that a man brings. So I don't think we're getting away from it. I think they're more so getting away from it than us. And when I say they're getting away from it, just like we have toys, they have toys too. And I think as women, we become so comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just broken up.
Yeah, we can hear you though.
Yeah. So I feel like
the signal's bad.
I feel like because women have become so independent that men are feeling a lack. Like even though we may not see it, basically sitting in, within ourselves being feminine, basically like we're not the men. So it's like a lot of men are feeling an extreme lack when it comes to women, because you have to think about it. Like back in the days, we were so much more dependent on our husbands, and the family unit was a lot stronger. today's it's a lot different. I mean, people are waiting years to get married, and to some people into their late 30s now. So it's like, you know, so I feel like there is oh, he said we don't have toys.
I've been seeing them blow up dolls and all
Okay, y'all
that.
got toys.
Exactly. There's definitely toys on the
Right.
market.
When you
I
said
mean, y'all
toys,
got
it
the
made me
little
think of
doll.
like,
That's true.
yeah, and it made me think of like the porn addictions and things like that. Like, you know, it's same, you know. And then if you're thinking of it on the energetic side, this probably plays a huge role in it too. But the men's sperm, it contains their life force. So if they're doing a lot of ejaculation, they're losing testosterone, they're losing life force. They don't have enough energy to go out, take action, and show up like divine masculine energy is meant to. So yeah, I think that has a huge role in it too. But I also don't want to not acknowledge what the men said in the poll, because no matter what we feel, like you said, there's a disconnect there somewhere where half men don't feel like necessary in the world, which is bad.
Exactly. And I think, and that's the real reason why I ended up doing this, was because of the need that I see from men on my Facebook page. And then I had a woman tell me, you know, come to me and be like, yeah, like if women are coming to your page for if men are coming to your page to get, you know, encouraged and to feel motivated and empowered about their life and who they are, then there's something wrong. So that was the main reason actually why I did this.
Absolutely. That was me who said it. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that it is absolutely the truth. I'm so upset that I got disconnected in the time when you guys were discussing this. But, you know, in going to someone else for emotional issues, that shows that there's a communication barrier between you and your spouse, husband, boyfriend, whatever the case scenario is. And that is a huge red flag in whether or not you're going to marry this person, whether or not you're going to stay with this person, you know, but not just that, but to look at yourself. What's going on? Why is it that he doesn't feel as comfortable to come to you? Why is it that he doesn't feel like he can talk to you about his emotional things? What I wrote in the chat, because I got cut off, was you have to be careful, because you can end up committing emotional infidelity. And that emotional infidelity can turn to actual cheating if you're not careful. You know, one of you girls had stated, as long as there's no other, you know, underlying, like, you know, I forget how you worded it, I'm sorry.
Ulterior motive.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll say for myself, when I was first opening my business 10 years ago, I was given advice by the wrong people. You know, I was given advice by a broken marriage, a broken relationship, listening to everything they were telling me to do. Make sure you hide your money. Make sure you change up accounts. Make sure you separate accounts so that he don't get to your money. Whatever you do, don't let him get to your money. Well, here I was separating accounts, separating money, building my business, opening my business, signing the lease, going ahead with the business plans without him involved. Well, what did he have to do? What was left for him? He's like, I don't even know why she's separating all these accounts and doing all of this. So he started talking to another woman. And when I found out, was I mad? I kicked him out. We separated for 4 months. I said, you can't come here no more. And then in those 4 months, that gave me time to reflect. What did I do wrong? And I'm sitting there like, a superwoman. No, I'm not a superwoman. Okay, I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm separating accounts with the man that I said at the pulpit that I would share everything with, the man that I said I would be equally yoked with, the man that I promised communication with, the man that I said would love unconditionally, all of that, you know, 1 Corinthians chapter 13:1, that everybody uses in their wedding. They say it, but they don't mean it. They say, in unconditional love, but no, there are conditions to this thing, and that is where it gets really fuzzy. So although I respect what Miana is doing 100%, I didn't understand it at first, but I respect what she's doing, because when you look back at how our men are raised, you know, initially how they're raised, and like we talked about even back in slavery days, being ripped from their mother's arms and not being able to have those coaxing type, you know, listening to, understanding communication, it can get hairy if you don't get a hand on it. You have to get a hand on it. And that means talking to your man, understanding where he's coming from, and getting your communication in order immediately.
Yeah.
I definitely do agree.
There. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that's where the disconnect is right there, because men need to feel useful. Like that's part of their thing, right? And so, like you said, if you're doing that whole thing and there's no use for them, then they're like, well, this woman might have a use for me over here.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But then you have those women that say, well, I'm not stroking his ego. I'm not going to make him feel needed because, you know, they think that takes away from them. And I'm like, okay, well.
That woman's gonna be cheated on. That woman's gonna be scorned. That woman's gonna have a lot of issues, because the reality of it is that's your man. You're supposed to be stroking his ego. You're supposed to be making him happy. And if you can't, that's a reflection on your self-happiness, not his.
Yeah.
So I think that we look at it selfishly sometimes, and we need to stop being selfish.
Yeah.
I definitely do agree. Okay, we're gonna go to the last poll question, and then we're gonna open it up for questions from any of the men that are watching. You could ask questions, and we'll, talk about that. So this is okay. So this is the last question, and this is a big one. Has keeping a relationship become harder because the mental state of women today? 83% of the men, and I'm not talking about, like if you look at my friends list, I got some amazing men on my friends list, ladies. Ooh. So I'm talking about guys with, great personalities, great jobs, just great eligible bachelors. And they clicked yes to this question. So that shows that there is a big problem when it comes to the way men feel about our mental state. Even though we're leading entrepreneurs and we're getting ourselves together, but are we getting ourselves together?
Wow.
So is it about that 50-50 stuff? Is that what it is?
No.
Nah.
I feel like I kind of work in the mental health field, because I do coach women on trauma and like rewiring limited beliefs that usually stem from trauma. And I will say there's women out there doing the work, but it's not an overnight thing, and it's not easy and it's messy. My weekly group coaching, there's a lot of crying. Last week we did an energy healing where they went into the lower 3 chakras. And if you know the chakras, the sacral chakra, that's like the sexual center. So I know all the women in my group have sexual trauma from being young. And so I'm not going to deny this poll, because I know it to be true. A lot of women have trauma that is not addressed, and they might be able to get through the day and function. But let's be honest, there's high functioning depression where you look happy and you look fine. There's high functioning anxiety. And even me, like, I know for sure most of my triggers come up in romantic relationships. So it's like the rest of your family, they might not get it from you. Your friends are like, oh, she cool, but then your partner's over there like hiding in the corner like, help me.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, I agree. So basically, that's one of the biggest things with men basically have to do with mental health. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because so many men feel worthless. Basically. And I don't want anybody to, at my hand, any of my Facebook friends, that all are people in general, to lose their life because they did bear the weight of the world on their hands and wasn't able to let it out and speak to somebody and actually feel important. So definitely, I think that, the mental health is super important.
Yeah, but I think like men have certain struggles that they face with outside of their household. Women do too, especially women that are working in corporate America. We have to be judged not only by the African-American male because he thinks that we're trying to come after his job. We have to be looked at by the Caucasian man and the Caucasian woman. So we have struggles that we have to face that men, I think, don't take into account. They think, okay, just because she's a woman, she may not face these struggles, but we face a lot of the struggles that men face when it comes to judgment, when it comes to certain things not being available to us. We just hold it different than certain men. We face where we have to bear children and we almost lose our lives. We put our lives on the line. So it's a lot of stuff that I think men don't take an accountability when it comes to the mental state of a woman. There's a lot that we are cushioned for because we have support from each other. We're this whole girl power move where men don't have the manpower move, but sometimes that support is needed just from a man to understand we face struggles and challenges just like a man, and it depends on how you look at it, because a woman could be torn down and still hold a smile on her face, where a man could be torn down and he could think it's the end of the world. I need my mama. Where a woman, we just going to keep pushing forward. So I think we have a different strength than a man, but you guys need to realize that we face the same challenges, but in a different perspective, because we are women. We're just built to just keep going and nurture ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
I do agree.
Yeah, that
Everybody who's in the comments, while we're speaking, if you want to, I'm sorry, to just let everybody know, after Ella speaks, if you want to put questions in the comments, please do that.
There's a little delay.
There is a delay. You can go, Ella.
Not true.
Okay, so once Ella comes back, we will continue with what she was saying. So we're gonna open up. Internet is spotty. Okay, all right. So we're gonna open up to questions. What was it? So not deflecting the same. Okay, so the first question that we have is here. How would you ladies feel if your man said he wanted to have a surgery to enlarge his penis? What?
I mean, great question, though, because a lot of ladies have surgery, right? Great question, because a lot of ladies have surgery and men have to agree with it, right? So honestly, if my man wanted to enlarge his penis, if that's what made him happy, then I'm here to support him. And I'm like, right on. But I'm going to make sure he knows the pros and the cons. And he makes sure that he knows that I'm going to accept him even if the surgery goes wrong. But I love him, and I just let him know I support him with or without the enlargement. But I definitely would support him.
Yeah, that's scary, because if something goes wrong, it could go very wrong. So,
but if something goes right, it could benefit us both. So yeah,
right.
And earlier, Michael asked, "What about the women that don't put?" Okay, so Michael asks, "What about women that don't put themselves last, but put their men's desires and wants last?" So there are a lot of women that I've basically run across that actually put their needs before their man's. So how do you ladies feel? I know it's nobody on this panel, but
no. You never know. No.
Right. Exactly.
I think men have to train us. We have to be trained, and we have to know about it. I think sometimes men have a problem communicating. So if you feel like your lady is putting your desires last, I think you have to find a way to communicate that with her. And if she's not the type of person that accepts communication vocally, show her that you want to get yours first before she gets hers by leading the way, right? You just have to set those boundaries and communicate and find out which groove works for y'all.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I agree. And if anybody has any other questions, ask away. I'm going to be scrolling just to see if I missed anybody's questions. Also, Michael Wright actually asked us what isn't porn today. So which when I was bringing up the whole twerking movement, there, like, sexuality in general is not what it used to be. So it's really out there. Everybody's showing everything. What is it like? Are there any boundaries today? Like, how do you feel? All right. So how do you feel about the majority of Black women are the only race that boastfully say they don't need a man? That's
Unfortunately, we are that people, and I think it's crazy that we say that. I mean, I need a man, so I don't have no problem admitting it. I don't need just any man, but the right man, absolutely. And I think it's crazy for women to say that they don't need a man, especially single mothers. I mean, if you don't need a man, your children do. So
right. Exactly.
I mean, your children need that male figure there. You may not need them, but your children do.
Listen, I don't know anything about the Giants or any one of them sports teams. So my son needs a man.
Miana, I have something to say on that. Black women being the only race that feels like we don't need a man. Honestly, we as Black women we don't have to face some of the challenges that other races and cultures have to feel, right? So where one of my girlfriends that I was born and raised with, she was probably taught you need somebody, where I was taught somebody may not like you, or somebody may not be interested in you. So you get yours, so that, whatever it is. And it comes back from our roots and how we've been taught, but we can always reprogram ourselves and feel like, because you're taught one way, that's not the end all be all. And as the world changes, we're conforming to the world, not the world conforming to us.
Right. Absolutely.
And then
what you said was so key. Just because we're raised that way, my husband says that to me all the time. I'll be like, you know what? This child is acting crazy. They're lucky I don't beat him like I was beat. And he says, yeah, but just because you was raised that way don't mean that you need to be that way.
That's true.
And so yeah, no, absolutely. It stems from, I'm Puerto Rican, so we face the same stuff. You know what I mean? We face the absolute same stuff. The only difference is that I have a lighter privileged skin that my husband necessarily can't take off, right? So he'll send me to go do things and send me to go, do the loans and the car loans and this and that, because how many times he's been denied just because of the color of his skin, right? Even and that's a whole nother podcast, Miana. But that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, absolutely. It's not, we're not just targeting Black women in a sense of always because it's Black women, but again and again and again, it goes back to what Ella was saying, and what she was discussing. Back in the day, they ripped these families apart, and these women were made to be masculine, made to do things that no woman should have to do. They were made to let a white baby suckle on their breast. They were made to do things that today we go, well, what's wrong with her? Why she acting like that? She acting like that because it's generational.
All right.
That's just my take on it.
I definitely agree. Michael says, is it healthy to really think that women face the same challenges as women? So I guess, do some women face the same challenges as others? Like most of you just stated, you've never heard of the Willie Lynch letter. How many people said that they didn't hear the Willie Lynch letter?
I think we all heard of it, and someone just never read it before.
Yeah,
so
I've heard of it.
Even when it comes to that, I think you could be, basically like woke on when it comes to matters of the Black community, but not have read everything. Because I've been very passionate when it comes to building the Black community. I've never read the Willie Lynch letter or did the audio of it or anything like that, basically. But the stuff that she's talking about, I've taught about it when it comes to the separation of Black families in other ways. So I think everybody just, picks and chooses what they want to learn when they want to learn it. And if it's something that they feel matters for them to learn. Majority of Black women. Okay, the next question. Do men really have a problem communicating, or do you have a problem listening?
Ooh,
Both.
that was a real good question.
No, but I think it goes back to men and women. They just think differently, and men don't understand women. Women don't understand men. And there's books I've actually gone and read, and just so I can understand men better. I remember I was watching Tony Robbins. He had a little thing on YouTube where he was had men and women. He was showing how men think and how women think. Women string everything together, men think in boxes. And so he had the woman ask a man out on a date. The man said no. So immediately she's thinking, oh, well, maybe he got somebody, or maybe, he doesn't like her and all this, that, and the third. And all it was is just that he wasn't available that day. She could have asked for another day.
Right.
And so it's like we start creating all these extra stories that were never even spoken when we don't hear the right things.
Wow.
There was also something that somebody said in your comments. He said that women think on emotion, women act on emotion, and men act on logic. You are almost 100% right with a lot of cases. And I will say this is that sometimes we do act on emotion. You think about entrepreneurs, women as entrepreneurs. I can't tell you how many times I was terrified to fire someone because I didn't want her to cry.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I didn't fire a client who complained about my price tag because I didn't know my self-worth. And I was like, oh, I don't want to fire her and I'll just take the $25. No, I'm worth what I charge. Right. So yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes with that gentleman that said that about women acting on emotion and men being acting on logic, that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Agreed.
It really is.
I like to touch on his question. And I said, when I'm looking at his questions, do men really have a problem communicating or do women have a problem listening? I think that when it comes to men communicating, I think that, of course, a man can't sometimes have struggles having a fluid conversation, but they show different languages, right? So their body language may be communication. And I think as women, we automatically think just because he's not talking to us, he's not saying anything, but his body language or what he's doing could show you something else. So if we as women pay attention to the big picture, a man could be communicating. So that comes with knowing who your man is and how he communicates. That's how you have to listen. So I think we have a problem listening when we're sheltered from the big picture and we just have a naive way of thinking about him communicating.
And you know what? I think some of us are just overly sensitive. Well, I wouldn't say overly sensitive. We're sensitive. I had an ex that would, if he wanted to tell me something, he'll be like, well, I don't mean any offense when I say this. And so when he says that, I'm like, okay, well, I know he may be a little harsh because that's just how he talks, but he's saying it from love. And he's just getting that out the way just to let me know, look, let your guards down and just listen to what I'm saying. And so.
And okay, so that leads us right into the next question. How many of you truly understand your man's communication style? So anybody who is not single can answer this question. I can't answer it because I'm single. I've been single. So.
I'm single too, so I'm out.
I believe that I do understand my husband's communication. What was the question? The communication?
Yeah, how many of you understand your man's communication style? Mm-hmm.
I believe that I understand my man's communication style because sometimes, we always want to say our piece. We always want to put our piece in there, and have a piece of our mind, right? But then sometimes when we put our piece of our mind in so much, we're disturbing the peace. We're not allowing the PEACE to take rise and to be prevalent. And so for my husband, I do understand his communication style because really what it comes down to is I will let him go on his tangent and then I'm silent and quiet because silent and listen have the same letters in it. And I'll be silent and quiet and then he'll hear himself. So I don't really have to do too much arguing or communicating. I just go, and then we're able to get through it. So I think everybody's communication style is definitely different. And it's super important you know exactly what it is so that you guys can communicate and work together. Because at the end of the day, like we talked about in the beginning of this podcast and, with beauty and everything else, if you're going to go through things, you're going to go through marriage. It ain't just a piece of paper. It ain't, so if everybody's goal is to get to marriage through courting or what have you, you have to nip all of that stuff in the bud first. Know how to communicate, know how to do all of these things to be able to have an extensive, positive, through the ups and downs relationship.
I definitely do agree.
I mean, I can't really touch on it, but what I can say is people's communication styles change as they grow as a person. So you just have to make sure that you grow with that person and don't be left behind, because if you can't hear that person communicating, you heard them communicating before, you have to see where they're growing in a space where you're not, because people grow and certain things. So you have to change your style and the way that you listen to them as they grow and they mature.
All right. So yeah, I definitely do agree with you. So why do women overthink? So, I mean, you ladies could answer because that's, I think we're naturally emotional. I mean, I think we're also like we're, I always call women builders. Like you give a woman something and she's going to build something. So I think that's because it's natural for us to create the family to and just different things like that, that we are going to consistently be thinking about things. Because we hold down the family, like we're the nurturers. Yeah. We're going to sit there and grow it. So we have to consistently be thinking. So, but overthinking. How do you feel about why do we overthink?
Some
I
people
think
just naturally think.
I
Some
think
people
it's
just naturally
natural.
think the worst of things. They think they don't know how to
Yeah.
put themselves in a mind frame where they think positive. They just naturally just think the worst of the worst is going to happen, and they just let their mind go away from because that's what they're trained to do. And they've had some traumas and things that they have to address to stop thinking, to stop overthinking.
Yeah.
But when you have a woman that you see this type of behavior, just know that is not something that just started. She's always been overthinking, and it's either
Mhm.
going to help her address the root cause, or you just going to use that as a red flag and say this is not for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I definitely do agree. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. How do you ladies feel if your man asks for a threesome, but he doesn't last long? So that means you're going to have to be doing a lot of the work.
Well, wow.
That's it, right?
Like this happened
Really?
once.
Well,
I mean,
I
so
mean,
can't
if
do
it's
it.
a threesome, I don't know if it's with boy, girl, or man, female, whatever, depending on the combination. He's not going to be the only person there if it's a threesome, so you can enjoy the other person. You can't really, and he can enjoy visually.
You ain't gonna want that.
Right. I just feel like if it's a
break
threesome and he can't, he can do other
Gatorade.
stuff while other people partake.
Mhm. Right, exactly. So if
Gonna have
we
to tag him
men,
when
tag team, right? Like it's wrestling.
Right. I mean,
Exactly. So if men see this so if we men see this all day, every day, what do y'all think is going through our minds when it comes to Black women in general?
The worst of the worst.
the worst of the worst. I think it's the worst of the worst, but just like we can reset our mind frame, y'all have to reset as well. Know that all Black women are not the same, and know that some women just need healing. And just know, just because one person was this way or 5 people were this way, there's 10 people that are not like this. So I think that you guys have to go back to the drawing board and reprogram your mind, and also broaden your horizons. Sometimes you attract people that have the same type of hurt and pain that you have, or the same type of things that you have. So you have to ask yourself, who am I attracting? Because if you're attracting a lot of Black women who are scorned and have issues, what does that say about you? You know, you have to do some self-evaluating.
Yeah. What kind of vibrations are you vibrating?
Exactly. Are your vibrations high or are they low?
Exactly. So he says, do women like to hold hands, take long walks, and listen to old school music anymore?
Absolutely. Do men like to do that?
Right? Yes, exactly. I think, like Paris was saying, is like it has to do with who you're attracting. So if you're having a lot of problems, basically a lot of times it's you're dealing with a woman who has low vibrations, basically, which then how are you vibrating that you're attracting this woman? And then
Right.
you can attract all different types. There's a lot of handsome men that are watching right now. You can track all different types of women, but it's like, are you watching for the red flags? Are you paying attention? Like, are you asking key questions? Does she even fit into your bigger picture? Or does her butt size matter more than anything else? You know, is that all you're
Yes, it's
caring
your
about?
fault, Holly.
All right, so let's go to. All right, so we're going to be doing this for 5 more minutes, and then we're going to end. Why is it that Black women Why is it that Black women think they face the same challenges as Black men? Is that healthy? I know I don't face the same challenges as a Black man, and to even think that I could even fit in his shoes would be ridiculous, like 100%.
Right. I don't think we face the same challenges as Black men. I think we face our own separate challenges, but I think that it's healthy for us to understand each other's challenges. When a Black man thinks that he is the only person that faces challenges and forgets about the African American female, I think that's unhealthy. So I think we can't walk in each other's shoes, but we all face challenges. And I think that it's unfair for the Black man to think that the Black woman doesn't face struggles, or just a woman in general, because women are prejudged just by the way that we speak, by the way we carry ourselves, by the way that we walk, by different things. So for you guys to think that we don't have challenges, I think that's unhealthy on the man's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they think we have it so easy, but and that's because we may not say anything about it. We don't broadcast it.
Right.
But no, we don't have it as easy as everybody think we do. We really don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And why so it says why is it that raunchy women are being idolized by women? Okay. why are raunchy women being idolized by Black women? So yeah, so there would be like the Meg the Stallions and different things like Cardi B's basically are being feels are.
I wouldn't even say raunchy. Honestly, I would say women with lower vibrations are targeted by certain men because they don't have to make the same sacrifices as a woman with higher standards. You know, it's easier for them to target those type of women, and it's easier for them to maneuver and get what they want from those type of women because their standards may be a little bit lower. I wouldn't call them raunchy. I would just say that they haven't evolved and they don't know their self-worth. But when it comes to a woman that knows who she is and walks confident and who she is, and a man has to just put a little bit more effort into it. And you guys are really simple. You don't want to put that oomph in it. You want everything easy. So you gotta balance it.
Yeah,
Exactly. All right, so let's go to which do you prefer? Do you want a man to tell you he loves you or to show you that he loves you?
Both.
well,
I don't want one or the other. Sorry, not sorry. I need to do both.
You want both, right?
Yeah, I mean, why should I have to choose?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have to choose. An emotional man is a sexy man to me. A
Yeah,
man that can show his feelings, express his feelings,
I love
and
it.
just give his feelings. I'm a sucker for it.
Yeah, me too.
No,
No.
but yeah, I'm an actions-based individual, so it's like you could talk all this, but it's like if you ain't walking it, basically, I could see that from a mile away. Red flag.
Yeah.
So I definitely do agree. Okay, so we have 2 more minutes. Let's see. Oh, so they're all replying. So actually, they're all Cynthia. Let me put her back up. What was it? Yeah. So that's gonna be it for today. So I thank you, ladies, that are part of the panel. You guys are amazing. You are beautiful. I want to thank you for I've never do a female panel, so this is the first time. So thank you guys. I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
So as I like to tell, I always say this before I end any of my lives. I want everybody to know who's watching, male and female. It's usually all about the men, but that you are amazing. You are beautiful. You are one in all the world. You are not one in a million. So that makes you extremely valuable. It makes you rare and important.
Yes.
So walk in that and always remember that.
thank you.
All right, so I'll check you guys later.